There are moments in the bold and the beautiful when the city of Los Angeles feels as though it stands still, moments when the choices of one man send ripples through families, alliances, and industries that have defined the soap for decades. And in the week ahead, all signs point to Bill Spencer stepping into that role once more. Dollar Bill, the titan of power and excess, has set his sights on something far bigger than another romantic conquest or another corporate takeover. He wants to build a fashion empire, one not defined by the legacy of Forrester Creations or the failures of his past ventures, but a brand built with the intent to reshape the future of the Spencer family itself. And deep beneath his calculated confidence lies a truth he rarely admits out loud. He wants his family close again, bound to him not by obligation but by vision. In the days following his whirlwind remarriage to Katie Logan, Bill moves through his world with an intensity that feels revived, almost electrified. The man who has spent years struggling between tenderness and ruthlessness now finds himself trying to fuse the two into a single purpose. Giving Katie her own fashion brand was more than a romantic gesture. It was a statement, a declaration of power and devotion rolled into one. But as the excitement fades and the reality sets in, Bill realizes that creating a fashion house from scratch is not a symbolic gift. It is a monumental undertaking that requires more than money. It requires strategy, talent, and a team that understands the delicate dance of the fashion world, where ambition often outweighs loyalty. Katie Logan, newly remarried, newly empowered, finds herself at the center of a promise she didn't ask for but cannot ignore. She is moved by Bill's belief in her, but quietly overwhelmed by the scope of what this means. Running a fashion brand is not a simple extension of her past roles. It is a seismic shift in her identity. She wants to succeed, not because she feels pressured by Bill's ego, but because she wants to redefine herself. Yet beneath her excitement lies a subtle anxiety. She knows she cannot do this alone. She understands the political labyrinth of the LA fashion scene, the expectations tied to the Spencer name, and the inevitable question that will soon come knocking: who will stand beside her to build this empire? Bill already knows the answer. In fact, he has known it for weeks, perhaps months, even before the idea of the brand fully crystallized. His thoughts keep returning to the son he hasn't seen in far too long, Wyatt Spencer or Fuller, depending which chapter of life one chooses to open. Wyatt, the man who once held the unique skill of balancing Bill's intensity with something softer, something grounded. A son who inherited both Quinn's artistry and Bill's business instinct. Wyatt is the missing piece, and Bill feels that absence like a ghost lingering in the corridors of Spencer Publications. Rumors have already begun to blaze across fan communities, suggesting that Darren Brooks may return to reprise his role as Wyatt. But within the universe of the story itself, the logic is even stronger. Wyatt's history with jewelry design, marketing, and brand development makes him a natural leader for a fashion house, someone who can bridge the gap between creative vision and business execution. Bill knows this, and Katie knows this, though she does not yet speak the thought aloud. Wyatt is more than a son returning. He is the key to turning Bill's gift into a legacy. Of course, Wyatt never travels alone. Not in heart, not in history, and certainly not in the eyes of longtime viewers. The mention of his name immediately pulls another figure back into the spotlight: Quinn Fuller. Passionate, unpredictable, deeply flawed, but undeniably brilliant. Her talents as a jewelry designer once shaped the aesthetic of Forrester Creations itself, her pieces woven into some of the most iconic storylines of the series. Beneath her chaos lies an undeniable truth. When she is not sabotaging relationships or kidnapping romantic rivals, Quinn is a creative force capable of elevating any fashion brand to artistic heights. And like Wyatt, she has been absent long enough that her return would shake the foundations of Los Angeles. Bill considers this quietly. Bringing Wyatt back makes sense. Bringing Quinn back is a gamble. But Bill has never feared risk, not when it promises reward. Quinn, for all her volatility, brings artistry, and there's a part of Bill that knows his new brand will need a signature that stands apart from Forrester elegance, something bolder, more dangerous, more unapologetically Spencer. And who better to embody that than Quinn Fuller? But there is another layer to this, one that neither Bill nor Katie may be ready to confront. Eric Forrester's dissatisfaction at his own company looms like a shadow over the industry. He has felt overlooked, pushed aside, diminished within the very walls he built. And if the rumors hold true, Eric may be willing to lend his influence, his craftsmanship, and his legacy to Bill's new venture. The irony is sharp. The founder of Forrester Creations, stepping into a Spencer-led fashion house, not as a competitor, but as a collaborator. To fans, to characters, to the industry, it would be a shockwave. For Bill, however, it is simply another strategic advantage. If Eric feels undervalued, Bill can offer him something Forrester no longer seems willing to provide: autonomy, respect, and a renewed sense of purpose. And if Eric joins, Quinn's return becomes not just plausible, but inevitable. Their shared history, romantic, turbulent, intoxicating, would become a subplot simmering beneath the surface of every business move. Katie, who has endured years of heartbreak at the hands of Bill's entanglements, senses the danger of mixing such combustible personalities. Yet she also knows that power attracts power, and Bill's new empire will only thrive if it gathers the strongest players. As Bill reaches out to his sons, his exes, and his potential allies, there is something almost vulnerable beneath the surface of his motivations. He wants a legacy that is more than money. He wants family, not in the sentimental sense, but in the strategic one. Bill Spencer wants a dynasty. A Spencer dynasty that can rival, or even surpass, the Forresters. And to do that, he needs every branch of the Spencer bloodline united under one vision, one empire, one brand. Wyatt's role in this becomes more emotionally charged the deeper Bill thinks about it. Their relationship has always oscillated between pride and tension, between acceptance and rivalry. Bringing Wyatt back is not just a business decision, it is an emotional gamble. Bill wants him close, but he also fears reopening old wounds, wounds caused by favoritism, betrayal, and years of conflict involving Quinn's interference. Bill fears losing another child to distance, resentment, or independence. He wants Wyatt not as a subordinate, but as a partner, someone who will help him craft a legacy that extends beyond the walls of Spencer Publications. Katie watches all of this unfold with an understanding that is both tender and wary. She has loved Bill long enough to recognize when he is driven by loneliness rather than pure ambition. She supports his desire to bring Wyatt home, but she also knows that reuniting the Spencer clan will not be simple. Quinn's presence alone can ignite chaos, and Katie has not forgotten the years of manipulation and violence that Quinn inflicted upon the Forrester household, especially on Eric and those connected to him. Katie knows that Quinn's creativity comes with a price, and any alliance involving her must be monitored closely. Meanwhile, the fashion world of Los Angeles begins to whisper. A new brand with the Spencer name? A potential exodus of talent from Forrester Creations? Eric's rumored dissatisfaction? Quinn's rumored return? Wyatt stepping back into the spotlight? These whispers grow into questions, and the questions evolve into anticipation. The possibility of a full-scale power shift electrifies the city in ways not seen since the Spectroversus. Forrester Wars, or the earliest Spencer crusades against the fashion elite. But beneath all the speculation lies the quiet truth that no one fully acknowledges. This new brand is as much an emotional battleground as it is a business venture. Bill is fighting for control, yes, but he is also fighting for relevance, for connection, for the legacy that eluded him each time he lost the people he loved to conflict or fear. He wants to build something that binds his family together, something that outlasts the volatility of romance or the fickleness of power. And he believes, perhaps naively, that Katie's leadership will anchor the empire he envisions. Yet even Katie senses that danger lurks beneath every decision. She wonders how long Bill's generosity will feel empowering before it becomes suffocating. She wonders how Quinn's return will disrupt the fragile peace she is rebuilding with Bill. She wonders whether Eric joining the brand will rekindle old rivalries within the Forrester family, pulling Ridge and Steffi into a battle they are not prepared to fight. And most of all, she wonders whether Wyatt, caught between his mother's impulsive chaos and his father's unrelenting ambitions, will find a place where he truly belongs, or whether he will once again be pulled into a war between his parents' identities. As the week's storyline unfolds, one truth becomes clear. Bill Spencer is not simply building a company, he is unleashing a catalyst. A catalyst for returns, confrontations, reunions, and power struggles that Los Angeles has not witnessed in years. The new fashion house is more than a gift. It is a summons. And characters long absent from the world of the bold and the beautiful may soon find their way back to the city that shaped and scarred them. Whether Wyatt returns with a renewed sense of purpose, whether Quinn re-enters with her seductive brilliance, whether Eric finds refuge in a brand that values him more than his own home, these questions ignite the imagination of fans and characters alike. What is certain, however, is that Bill's new empire is not merely the start of a business. It is the start of a storm. The Bold and the Beautiful, December 16th, a storm gathering above Spencer, Logan, and Hayes the day after the lavish celebrations at the Spencer estate begins not with champagne bubbles or the lingering glitter of romance, but with a wave of emotional reckoning that slowly spreads across Los Angeles. The second wedding between Bill and Katie, swift, impulsive, and yet deeply symbolic, has left everyone reeling in different ways. For Brooke, it is a moment filled with bittersweet reflection. For Ridge, it is an unexpected reprieve from the endless chaos that usually surrounds the Spencer family. For Taylor, however, it is the prelude to something darker, something she cannot shake even as the morning light streams through her office windows. And for Deacon Sharp, it is the beginning of a fear he has tried to suppress for months, the fear that the one woman he has staked his heart on, Sheila Carter, may be slipping into the shadows again, returning to an impulse she swore she had left behind. The quiet of the morning is broken first at the Forrester mansion, where Brooke arrives to update Ridge on everything that transpired at Bill Spencer's home the night before. She carries herself with the poised grace of someone who has lived through more twists of fate than most people ever will, but her eyes carry a glimmer of disbelief, as though the events she is recounting still feel surreal even to her. She tells Ridge how Bill, in a bold and characteristically dramatic flourish, proposed to Katie without warning, and how she, still wounded from years of heartbreak but never immune to Bill's gravitational pull, accepted instantly. Ridge listens with the bemused amusement of a man who has come to expect nothing less than tumult from Bill, but even he is surprised by the speed and impulsivity of it all. While he and Brooke reflect on their own turbulent history, there is something almost refreshing in witnessing another couple leap into commitment without overthinking every detail. Brooke describes the ceremony, the softness of the candlelight reflecting off Katie's skin, the way Bill couldn't take his eyes off her, the hush that fell over the room even among guests who have seen their fair share of drama. It was a day meant for Liam and Hope to celebrate their own union, yet somehow Bill managed to weave Katie into the emotional tapestry of the evening, turning the event into an unexpected celebration of new beginnings layered upon old wounds. Ridge can almost picture the scene, and despite his complicated feelings about Bill, he finds himself genuinely pleased that Katie has found a sense of grounding again. Her journey has been long, marked by heartbreak and health struggles and periods of deep self-doubt. If this wedding marks a turning point for her, then perhaps the whirlwind is worth it. But there is another twist to Brooke's update, one Ridge did not expect. Bill did not just marry Katie. He gifted her an entire fashion brand as a symbol of his devotion and a promise of her future independence. Katie, who has spent much of her life standing in the shadow of more dominant personalities, now finds herself on the precipice of a new professional era. The gesture is grand, perhaps even reckless, but it is undeniably Bill. Bold, extravagant, and fueled by a hunger to rewrite the narrative of every relationship he touches. Brooke can see how deeply this shocks Katie. The brand represents not just a gift, but a shift in identity, a chance for Katie to evolve beyond the roles that have defined her for so long. Brooke's voice carries both admiration and caution as she recounts the scene to Ridge. She knows better than anyone that gifts like these come with expectations, and Bill Spencer never gives without wanting something in return. As Brooke and Ridge share this intimate moment of reflection, Another conversation is unfolding across town, one much heavier, much less celebratory. Taylor Hayes sits in her office, fingers tapping absently against the arm of her chair, replaying the words she heard from Sheila the day before. Sheila's voice still lingers in the room, sharp and dangerous like the echo of a blade drawn too close to the skin. Sheila had hinted, too casually, too boldly, about sabotaging Hope and Liam's wedding. And even though she ultimately held herself back, the very fact that she entertained the idea sends a chill through Taylor's spine. She has spent her entire professional life studying the fractured minds of others, but Sheila is different. Sheila operates in a realm beyond clinical understanding, where emotion and obsession intertwine into something unpredictable and deadly. Taylor knows she has to tell someone, and that someone is Deacon Sharp. When he arrives, she feels the weight of responsibility settle across her shoulders. She is about to shatter the fragile hope he has been clinging to, the belief that Sheila has finally left her violent impulses behind. But Taylor also knows that Deacon deserves the truth. He deserves to understand the danger he is living with every day. And so, gently but firmly, she tells him everything. Deacon listens, his expression tightening with each detail. He has defended Sheila to the world, insisted that she has changed, that her love for him is different from the chaos she has caused in the past. But as Taylor speaks, he feels something twist inside him. Fear. Not for himself, but for Sheila. He knows how fragile her grip on stability can be. He knows how easily she can slip through the cracks when cornered by her own emotions. And after everything that happened with Luna Nozawa, an event that still lingers like a bruise in the public consciousness, he cannot deny that the threat of relapse is real. Taylor sees the struggle play out on Deacon's face, and something softens in her. Despite their complicated history, despite the walls built over years of rivalry and heartbreak, she recognizes in Deacon a man fighting desperately for redemption, not just for himself, but for the woman he loves. And it is that recognition, that shared yearning to protect someone flawed and fragile, that begins to bind them in an unexpected way. The room grows quieter as Deacon opens up in a way he rarely allows himself to. He admits that he has been afraid too, afraid that Sheila's darkness is not gone but merely sleeping, that the world is waiting for her to fail, that he has built his newfound life on a foundation that could crumble with one wrong choice from her. Taylor does not interrupt. She lets him speak, lets him unravel the knots in his heart, and in turn, she feels something within herself unravel as well. She has spent so many years trying to be the voice of reason, the anchor for her family, the moral compass in a world where morality often bends under pressure. But in Deacon, she sees a mirror of her own vulnerabilities, a person who has made mistakes, who has loved the wrong people, who keeps choosing hope even when it hurts. What begins as a conversation about Sheila soon becomes something more, a space where Taylor and Deacon begin to understand each other not as adversaries or reluctant allies, but as two people standing at the edge of uncertainty, trying to keep those they care about from falling into the abyss. And yet, this growing bond carries an inevitable risk. If Sheila senses that Taylor and Deacon are becoming emotionally connected, her reaction could be catastrophic. Sheila does not share. Sheila does not surrender. Sheila destroys what threatens her. Their newfound closeness is quiet at first, a gentle shift in tone, a lingering pause between sentences, a softening of old defenses. But emotional proximity has a way of accelerating in moments of fear, and the fear surrounding Sheila begins to act like a catalyst. Taylor finds herself confiding in Deacon more openly than she expected, and Deacon, in turn, finds himself seeking Taylor's reassurance not just as a therapist or an advisor, but as someone whose presence steadies him. Their conversations stretch longer. Their silences grow heavier. Their shared concern becomes a thread binding them in ways neither anticipated. The irony, of course, is that the more they try to protect Sheila by understanding her instability, the more they unintentionally create exactly what could push her over the edge. Sheila's identity is rooted in possession, of relationships, of loyalty, of emotional boundaries. If she believes that Deacon is slipping away from her, that he is forming a connection with someone else, especially someone like Taylor Hayes, whom she has always seen as a threat, her response will not be measured. It will be scorched earth. The narrative that unfolds over this December episode is one of emotional convergence, two families celebrating unexpected joy, while two other hearts grapple with the shadow of a woman whose past is dark enough to eclipse even the brightest moments. Bill and Katie's wedding represents one future, a future built on renewed vows, grand gestures, and the hopeful reinvention of two souls who never truly stopped loving each other. Meanwhile, the tension surrounding Sheila represents another future entirely, a future fraught with danger, denial, and the haunting question of whether a person like her can ever truly change. As the day ends, Brooke and Ridge feel lighter. Katie feels empowered. Bill feels triumphant. But Taylor and Deacon feel something else entirely, a creeping, inevitable dread. They know that acknowledging their fears is only the first step. What comes next will require courage, honesty, and perhaps sacrifices neither of them are ready to make. And somewhere in the shadows of Los Angeles, Sheila Carter feels the shift too. She senses the unease in Deacon's voice, the hesitation in his eyes, the unspoken concerns he tries and fails to hide. She knows something is changing. And for a woman like Sheila, change is never simply accepted. It is confronted. It is fought. It is controlled. The revelations teased for this episode of The Bold and the beautiful hint at a storm gathering at the edge of every storyline, one that could reshape relationships, ignite obsessions, and drive Sheila to a breaking point that could alter the landscape of the show forever. As Taylor and Deacon grow closer in their shared fear, Sheila edges closer to a precipice from which there may be no return.